Rain pelted the streets like 1,000 tiny hammers, drumming against the glass windows of the sleek skyscraper where Alexander Vale, a man who had built an empire from scratch, sat alone. The boardroom, usually buzzing with his executives' chatter and the sharp clink of coffee cups, was now silent. Outside, the world seemed alive with chaos, the kind of chaos Alexander had long avoided. Despite his immense wealth, his penthouse view, and the accolades hanging like trophies on his walls, he felt an emptiness so vast it gnawed at him nightly. Success had filled his life with everything money could buy, yet left him starving for the warmth of genuine human connection. That evening, a wave of uncharacteristic restlessness gripped him. On a whim, he left the polished confines of his office, the city lights reflecting off the wet asphalt like scattered diamonds, and wandered into a small, dimly lit neighborhood he rarely visited. If you believe in kindness and second chances, do hit like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Stories of Kindness. This story might just remind us all why giving matters. Alexander's expensive shoes splashed in puddles as he approached a tiny diner tucked between shuttered shops. The neon sign flickered weakly, Harper's Place, and inside, the smell of warm bread and soup mingled with the faint aroma of fried potatoes. The diner was modest, almost forgotten by the bustling city, yet tonight it held a small, silent world that would change Alexander forever. He noticed them instantly, a family huddled together in the corner booth, their clothes worn and patched, faces pale and eyes tired but alive with a quiet resilience. A little girl, no older than 6, clung to her younger brother as their mother shivered under a thin coat. The father sat beside them, his jaw tight, trying to shield his children from the world. Hunger was evident in the way they whispered to each other, in the careful rationing of a half-empty cup of soup that sat untouched between them. Alexander's heart, which had long grown accustomed to the sterile comfort of wealth, skipped a beat. He felt an unfamiliar urge, to act, to bridge the impossible gap between his world and theirs. He walked to the counter and ordered enough food to fill every empty stomach in that booth. Soup, sandwiches, warm bread, and pastries, piling them high on a tray. As he carried the food to their table, their eyes widened, a mixture of surprise, suspicion, and gratitude flickering across their faces. "Please, sit with us," the father murmured, unsure. Alexander shook his head. "No, this is for you," he said, placing the tray before them, the steam curling like fragile clouds. The mother's hands trembled as she reached for a piece of bread, and the little girl's eyes, wide and luminous, met his. Alexander felt a lump in his throat, a sharp pang of something he hadn't felt in years, human connection, raw and unfiltered. They ate in silence at first, the quiet only broken by the soft clink of utensils and the occasional sip from steaming cups. Alexander watched them, noticing the small details, the boy's scraped knee, the mother's calloused hands, the father's anxious glances at the door. He realized that no amount of wealth could prepare a person for the daily battles they fought, battles of survival, not of profit margins. Finally, the little girl, whose name he learned was Maris, looked up at him with a shy smile. She held out a crumpled piece of paper. "For you," she whispered. Her voice was soft but certain, and Alexander froze mid-breath. He didn't move immediately, he couldn't. His hands, the same hands that had signed contracts worth millions, were trembling as he unfolded the paper. It was a small drawing, crudely made with crayons, depicting a simple family of 4, Maris, her brother, her parents, and a stranger figure in a suit, standing slightly apart but smiling. Above the drawing, in uneven, careful letters, was written, "Thank you for our dinner." Tears welled in Alexander's eyes before he could even process them. The world around him, the neon lights, the rain, the towering skyscrapers, faded into insignificance. Here was something money could never buy, pure, unfiltered gratitude, expressed through the innocence of a child. The mother reached over and touched his hand, a small, human gesture that broke through the years of armored loneliness Alexander had built around himself. We didn't expect this," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. Alexander swallowed hard. I just wanted to help, he replied, feeling utterly inadequate. Helping seemed so small against the immensity of their struggle, yet in that moment, it felt monumental. He found himself asking questions about their lives, their dreams, their hardships. The father, whose name was Tobias, shared that he had lost his job months ago and had been struggling to find stable work. Maris's little brother, Leo, clutched a tattered toy car, explaining that it was the only gift he'd ever received. Alexander listened, genuinely, feeling each word etch itself into his heart. He realized how insulated his life had been, filled with board meetings and luxury vacations, yet void of these simple truths of human existence, the courage to endure, the capacity to love despite suffering. Over the next hour, something miraculous unfolded. Alexander and the family laughed softly at small jokes, shared stories, and even shed tears together. The diner, once a mere backdrop, transformed into a sacred space where walls of status, wealth, and loneliness crumbled. Alexander felt something shift within him, a profound understanding that life's richness wasn't measured by bank accounts or accolades but by the lives one touched and the hearts one healed. When it was time to leave, he offered them something more than a meal. He handed Tobias an envelope, thick enough to suggest more than just money, enough to cover rent, utilities, and perhaps even a small emergency fund. Tobias hesitated, shaking his head. We don't want to take, Alexander cut him off gently. Consider it a start. You've given me more than I could ever repay. Let me give you a chance to breathe. Maris reached out and hugged his leg tightly. Thank you, she whispered again. Alexander knelt down and hugged her back, tears spilling freely now, his mind flooded with the gravity of this unexpected encounter. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, the city lights reflecting off the wet streets with a soft, forgiving glow. Alexander walked away, feeling lighter, though the drawing Maris had given him remained pressed against his chest. That night, as he returned to his penthouse, he couldn't stop thinking about the family. Their resilience, their gratitude, their ability to find joy even in scarcity, it haunted him in the most beautiful way. He realized that he had spent years chasing the wrong kind of fulfillment, mistaking wealth for happiness, and solitude for independence. Now, he knew that true richness was measured not in the money he accumulated but in the lives he touched, the smiles he inspired, and the connections he forged. Days turned into weeks, and Alexander made it a habit to visit Harper's place regularly. He didn't announce his arrival, didn't post it on social media, didn't seek recognition. It wasn't about grandeur or publicity, it was about something far more profound. He watched the family slowly regain stability, Tobias finding a small but steady job, the mother starting a home-based catering business, and Maris and Leo attending school with a sense of normalcy they hadn't known for months. Alexander, in turn, felt a healing in himself that no therapy, no vacation, and no luxury purchase had ever given him.